Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the My Lighter podcast. I'm your host, Emma, and today we are going to be talking about probably the topic I'm the most passionate when it comes to preparing for motherhood. We're going to be talking about preparing for postpartum, but specifically, we're going to be talking about preparing your mental health for postpartum so that you can set yourself up to increase your chances of reducing anxiety, stopping anxiety from taking over when your baby comes, and kind of dampening your experience as a new mum, but also helping prevent postpartum depression as well, which I know is a real fear for many women, because it's quite common. 1 in 5 mums typically experience postpartum depression or anxiety or another mood disorder. And most of us experience some anxiety, some nerves, some worry, some fear in this whole transition. And our mental health is obviously so important to be able to take care of in this time. Because I always think of it, this is how I approach it. And this is why I'm so passionate about this topic. There is so much evidence out there that shows us, well, first of all, the facts are that so many women experience depression or anxiety postpartum, right? So we know that we can predict that is one of our most emotionally vulnerable times of our lives. And yet we've been so crappy as a society to prepare women in an intentional way for this vulnerable chapter so that they can get ahead of many of these symptoms, feel like you know how to respond to them if you do experience them, and lessen the impact, which is incredible because that has better long-term outcomes for you, for your baby, just your whole experience when you can I was going to say nip it in the bud, but I don't really love that expression. But when you can reduce symptoms and like intervene and support yourself early rather than kind of waiting for months and hoping it gets better and then just being, another story of where like you look back and you're like, oh, I actually was suffering, didn't really realize it because of the newborn fog and because everything's new, and just suffer for longer than you need to. So my goal and what I get excited about is that there is so much evidence, so much research, and so much opportunity for us to get ahead of our mental health, like be really proactive in this time. And just like you might be, staying fit and strong and working out or doing prenatal yoga in your pregnancy because you know that A feels good now, but will also help you and your body recover more physically postpartum, have a better birth experience if your body's in good shape. Just like that is easy for us to grasp, I want it to be just as easy for us to value our mental health through this transition as well. And if you're someone who has never suffered from anxiety or depression, you're just like curious about this topic, maybe you're like, well, okay, I don't know if I really need to do that. Like I said, depression, anxiety is quite common, even if you don't experience it to the extent of like having depression or having anxiety, like having a level that reaches a mood disorder. All of us have mental health, all of us have worries, all of us have nerves about this transition. And there are some things that I think every mom should know about how to really look after, nurture, and support your emotional well-being through this transition, just so that you feel better through it and so that you feel more like yourself through it. And when mums feel healthier, feel more like themselves, like are supported through this time, it's just like better all around. It's better for you. It's better for your connection with your baby. It's just a happier, better experience for everyone. So, um, even if you've never really thought about this topic before, welcome. This episode is going to help you feel more prepared. And if you are someone who has experienced anxiety or depression in the past, and maybe, it's kind of weighing on in the back of your mind, Like, what if I experience this? I just want to assure you it is a common fear. And I hope this episode will be a breath of fresh air for you and feel like it gives you really tangible, actionable things so that you can proactively prepare. Because for those of you who are new here, hi, I want to share like a little bit of my background so you know where I'm coming from when when I tell you about this topic. So I am a doctor in terms of I have my doctorate. I'm not a medical doctor or a psychiatrist or psychologist. Me back, when I was like 20, 21, really wanted to be a psychologist, a counselor. That was like my goal. And it didn't pan out that way. However, I went on to do my master's and my PhD in mental health promotion, which I didn't even know existed at the time. And I'm so happy that I ended up going down that path instead because it actually aligns with my deeper values. So, I really value being healthy, staying healthy, and doing everything I can to live life from that place rather than getting sick and then having to focus on treatment, treating a sick person. I love to help keep you healthy. So my master's and my PhD are in mental health promotion. So I really studied from a really zoomed out perspective. So beyond you, I looked at our social environments, I looked at our physical environments, I looked at our neighborhood environments, I looked at, even like social norms and what that did was it gave me a really incredible perspective where I was able to take what I learned from my bachelor's in psychology, where I focused on clinical mental health, and like more like the disorder side of things or depression side of things. And so I was able to understand what happens within us that makes us prone to depression or anxiety or poor mental health. But then I was able to go so much more through my research and look to see the impact our social environments and our resources that we have access to all around us also very much influence our health. And so, what I did from that, and in hindsight, what I have done over the past several years, because this was many years ago, it was 9 years ago that I finished my PhD, and I've been working as a researcher in the public health space ever since. And for the last 5 years, yeah, 5 years, I've been supporting mums to have better birth and postpartum experiences by preparing themselves emotionally and their minds for it. But what I've done is I've created a whole method to prepare for postpartum that takes into account those key layers that I was just talking to you about. And this makes me very excited because it takes that prevention proactive lens in mind. Like, I believe that if we equip ourselves with the inner tools and the resources and supports around us before our baby even gets here, if we equip ourselves with things that are going to help us cope better, feel better, navigate, the sleepless nights, navigate the stress of the hormone changes that happen within us, just navigate our new schedules, navigate learning everything new for the first time with a baby and being on a totally different routine, navigating potential, figuring out how to feed your baby, like just all the things that come with being a new mum. It's obviously such a happy time, but it can also bring about different stress. So I just think if we can take a few steps in pregnancy to set ourselves up to feel more resilient, healthier, more like ourselves through this whole transition, then let's do that. Let's use the decades of science that has advanced since, prenatal classes were even first developed, where it is very much baby focused. I love to focus and zoom in exclusively on you, the mum, and support you and your emotional well-being through this whole chapter. And for those of you who are new here, because I know there's lots of new listeners on the podcast, and I'm so happy you have joined. Um, I have a program called My Lighter Motherhood, and what it does is it's for pregnancy, although you can take a postpartum, but I designed it specifically for pregnancy to put in place a few steps that I'll go into next in this episode to put it in place in your real life while you're pregnant to set yourself up for a smoother postpartum. And then, so My Lighter Motherhood helps you set up your inner world and everything around you, but also then supports you all the way through postpartum. Because I noticed a lot of motherhood supports are really fantastic, but they tend to drop off after a few weeks or, maybe even 6 weeks into postpartum. But, our babies often don't sleep through the night for months and months, often like a year or more, like my babies. And our hormones are still fluctuating after that 6 week time. And I was just like, why not create something that can support you for like the entire first year? So you have like the best start and the best first year with your baby, and you feel healthier and you're more like yourself through it. So that's what My Lighter Motherhood is. I will put it in the show notes for those of you who are new to it to check out, or if you've been thinking about it, thinking about joining, the second or third trimester is the perfect time for you to join because you still have space right before baby comes to be able to learn and implement. And I just feel like pregnancy is such a good time to learn as well. And you can kind of do it on your commute or as you're finishing off your nursery and checking off your to-do list. And yeah, I believe preparing you is just as important as preparing the baby for your baby, and maybe even more so in many ways. So, yeah, I'll put that below for you to check out. And I would love to support you inside of there. It's a self-paced program, so you can take it at your pace and it's going to meet you where you are in pregnancy and also postpartum. And today in this episode, I'm going to share more of the steps in my method that I teach inside My Lighter Motherhood, and so that you can walk away like with a new perspective and understanding of like, okay, these are the different ways I can be really proactive and help increase my chances of preventing depression and anxiety postpartum, but also feel more resilient and more resourced if I do experience these things after my baby is here. Because obviously the goal is prevention. We can't like predict prevention. You can't prevent something 100% of the time. Obviously, it helps. But the goal also is if you do start to feel not like yourself after your baby is here, that you can kind of recognize the signs and get support early to help you get back on the trajectory that you want to be on. All right. So my Lighter Motherhood method to prepare for postpartum that I want to share with you today is broken down into three key areas of your life and three key areas that within them, the reason I've chosen them, they happen at different levels. And the reason I chose them is that at each of these levels, there are, I would call them like risk factors or things that can increase your chances of experiencing more stress, more overwhelm, worse mental health. But there are also, and this is a part I get very excited about, there are also protective factors. There are things that can increase your chances of having better mental health and better emotional well-being and enjoy this time more, which is obviously what we all want. And so these are the things that we can leverage and put in place in pregnancy to act like a protective little cocoon within and around yourself. So let's go into these three levels and I'll explain kind of what each one mean and what each one can more practically look like when you apply them in your real life. So number one, this is like the broadest level that I think of around us. That is our village, I call it. It's like the experts, the resources, the tools, the environment, like the broader environment that you live in that can positively help you to feel better postpartum. So let me go into what I mean by that, and we'll specifically look at the ones that more directly impact your mental health and your well-being. So when you think about, okay, experts, supports, resources that can support your emotional well-being through this transition, you might think of like more traditional, like Western supports for mental health. You might think of, going to your doctor. You might think of going to a therapist and getting counseling. And like, absolutely, those are resources around you that can help directly support your mental health. And we can talk about how to use them. But I also know that there are so many more things, even outside of those things, which might excite you because some people are like, okay, like I want, like, is there anything else? Are there any other options besides therapy or besides like medication? Is there anything else that feels like a bit lighter, more fun, or and that's also very effective? So we're going to go into a few different things that can help support your mental health postpartum, beyond those more traditional supports as well. Okay, because I love a holistic perspective. So, okay. So when I think of therapy, I'm like, yeah, especially if you're prone to anxiety or depression, I think, being proactive in your pregnancy, maybe setting up a appointment with your therapist, talking about, like this is something that I want to get ahead of, like are there ways that you can support me through this transition? I think that's like a great place to start. So you could have a meeting with them in pregnancy and just talk about this whole transition and work through any fears with them. You could also set one up for maybe like the 6 or 8 week postpartum mark. Ideally, you could have like a virtual appointment if that feels easier. I often find that's like easier with a baby that you could like even if your baby is with you, that's fine. Um, just to check in, just to check in. And with your doctor, you could also bring it up to them when you're pregnant or your midwife or whoever your healthcare professional is in your pregnancy. You can just bring up the topic of postpartum mental health with them. My one thing about that is like often the go-to is therapy or medication in their eyes, and those things can be incredibly effective. I am an advocate for either in the right situation. But I find yeah, like I said, there's an opportunity for other things beyond those two things to also support your mental health postpartum as well. So just keep in mind when you're talking to them, those might be the things that they go to, and that's fine. There is a lot of research that shows both of those can be effective. Um, but yeah, what I would do or what I would suggest with your doctor, and I'm trying to remember if I had this convo with my midwife, and I don't really remember. Probably actually, because they're like, "Are you prone to like anxiety?" And I was like, "Yeah, like I am, more like high functioning anxiety, but there have definitely been points in my life where I was more depressed or I was more anxious." So I'm like, that's something I want us to keep an eye on postpartum. And having that conversation with them in pregnancy is really beneficial because what that will do is like cue to them that this is important to you, cue to them to have this on their radar in case it's not part of their standard practice. Because I find a lot of healthcare professionals really vary in their degree of like knowledge, understanding, and level of proactivity when it comes to mental health postpartum. Some have it built into their appointments and how they structure and do things that they will screen you at the 2 week mark, after baby comes. They will screen you at, key intervals. But many unfortunately don't. And that's a problem because then they're not helping you catch it. And then, women are going without this part of their health supported, or maybe even aware themselves that they might be experiencing anxiety or depression. So it's just good to have like an open, upfront conversation with them, and you can share that that's something that you want them to help you with as after your baby is born. So that's something I feel like we could all just do is like have that kind of conversation with our healthcare professionals. All right. What else do I want to say in this area? So, okay, yeah. So having that support around you can be really helpful for your mental health. And also here, because obviously so much of your time, energy, and attention is going to baby after they're born, I always recommend like um getting ahead of some of the things known to exacerbate or like increased stress in the newborn stage. And one of the things that always comes to mind for me is feeding your baby because it can be such a learning curve for a lot of us. Some babies come out knowing how to eat right away. For others, it's just such a learning curve. And because feeding your baby is like such like um a big amount of your time and focus at the beginning as you're both figuring it out, if it's not going well, it can be really stressful. And I don't say this to freak anyone out. I actually say this to empower you because if you are someone who experiences challenges, say breastfeeding, um, I want you to know that that is common. About 60% of mums experience challenges breastfeeding. However, I don't want that to deter you or make you think that you can't carry on and figure those things out because most feeding challenges is just a learning curve for you and your baby. Your baby's obviously really little. It can take time for them to gain that skill, for them to gain the strength to breastfeed effectively. But it is a skill that they can learn and you can learn in almost all of the cases. So I love to share that because sometimes when mums experience challenges, they're like, oh my gosh, is this what's going to be like for the next 6 months? Oh my gosh, like, does this mean we can't do it? And in most cases, you can figure it out and you guys will do it. And you'll probably go on to have like a beautiful feeding journey together after those initial humps. So I just want you to know challenges aren't a red flag that you can't do it. It's just like a yellow flag of like, okay, there's something we have to temporarily figure it out. And then for most of us, it's gonna work out and be great. And in that same vein, during the time where it's not going smoothly, it can be incredibly stressful. Like I know this from experience with baby number one. I was on high alert for my mental health with baby number one for a little while after I had him, like I would say like maybe 3 weeks in, I was like, okay, I know I'm past the standard baby blues things and I'm still experiencing these symptoms. But I also know this is heavily linked to the feeding situation. And once we can figure that out, I just have a feeling my mental health is going to get so much better, but I want to keep an eye on it. And that's something that I talk to very openly with like my midwife about, for example. But in this area, one of the proactive pieces you can do in pregnancy is A, take a breastfeeding class or a feeding class so you know what your feeding options are, you know how to latch them and like have that in your mind. And also have a good lactation consultant lined up afterwards. Unfortunately, not every birth professional is like has an advanced level of skill in breastfeeding support or in lactation. They're not all lactation consultants. And just like any kind of professional, you have some that are like incredible at what they do, and you have others that just have different perspectives or different experiences, maybe lesser skills, maybe just different values. Like maybe some are more quick to just like push the formula, you know? So this is why I'm always like, find a good lactation consultant if you're in the Kingston, Ontario area. Um, Send me a message. I can recommend some local ones for you. But otherwise, just even ask in your local mum groups while you're still pregnant. Be like, hey, does anyone know of like a really good, skilled lactation consultant who I could call if I need to postpartum? I think that is an incredible way to help just to have in your back pocket because that will help you reduce stress the faster you get that sorted out. And obviously, someone, an expert in this area, is gonna be able to help with that. So those are some of the big recommendations that I have. Another one here is to learn the tools to help support your emotional well-being in the early days, like through the baby blues. And these are all things that I teach and that I can give you. Like I could be part of your mental health village inside My Lighter Motherhood. Because in there, I teach you things like, okay, this is my process for how to move through the baby blues quicker. Because what I found with baby number one is that when I experienced the baby blues, I knew to expect them. I knew they were normal. I knew what the symptoms were, but I didn't know how to respond to them. So I just kind of like cried or like braced myself through them and kind of dreaded the nights ahead because I found it kind of hit in the evenings. Whereas between baby number one and baby number two, I really learned how to move through like those feelings of anxiety or those feelings more quickly. And while I was pregnant, and postpartum with my second baby, that's when I created My Lighter Motherhood. And in real time, I created a process to move through the baby blues and know what to do when they hit. And I recorded them and again put them inside My Lighter Motherhood to teach other mums because that was something I found was just missing in normal prenatal education. They told me what to expect, but they didn't tell me how to feel better through it. And so I was like, I need to, this is working really well for me. I need to share it with other mums so that, you have that option as well if you want it. Um, yeah, you can also learn, those tools. You can also learn tools from professionals and experts around this, around like how to stop anxiety, how to stop intrusive thoughts at the newborn stage from taking over, how to support yourself on the days that feel heavy. Yeah, and that's what I love to teach my clients and talk about. And the cool thing about this is when you have these tools for yourself, it has been so incredible because not only did I see benefits as someone who is prone to anxiety, depression, but I also saw so many benefits in my clients who were prone to anxiety or prone to depression. And it's just so exciting to see them feel less anxious and more like themselves through this time. Because I think that's what we all want is to just just enjoy this like incredible, fleeting, amazing time. So yes, that is my piece around uh, the village part of the My Lighter Motherhood method. And I have two more layers to this method. And the reason I have these three layers is A, there is so much research that shows this is going to be a sciencey for just 1 second, but stick with me. Uh, you'll smart, like you'll you'll get it. Um, is a multi-level approach to health, like, is the most effective. Like when you are supported from the outside at all these different layers, it's just setting you up for success. And yeah, so why not take advantage of all of these three areas? So the second layer of the My Lighter Motherhood method that can help you increase your chances of preventing depression or anxiety postpartum has to do with your people, your relationships, the people in your life that are here, that love you, that support you, that want the best for you and your baby. There are things you can, connect with them on before your baby gets here to have a smoother start. So let's dive into this a little bit. All right. So some people, when they think of like, okay, who can support you on like the harder days, you might feel like, I would call my mom and ask her to come over and like hold the baby or do laundry or, make me a lunch, or I'd call my best friend to like bring me over my favorite latte. Or I would, ask my partner to, take the baby for a couple of hours and then I'm gonna have a nap. And these are all incredible things that you can do to set yourself up for a smoother newborn experience because your people like want to be there for you. So many people are like, let me know if I can help. And you're like, okay, thanks. But then when you're a new mom, you might not know what you need. You might not know, yeah, you just might not know what you need. And it might seem like more mental effort to try and think of a way they can help you and then ask for it. So then when they end up checking in postpartum, you might be like, oh, like we're good kind of thing. My goal for you is for you to be able to anticipate and put in place some of the ways people can support you. Um, and do it without guilt, do it from a place that feels empowering, like that feels like I know that this is a time where I'm going to ask for more than what I would normally ask for from those around me. But I'm going to do it without guilt and I'm going to do it knowing it's the best thing for my baby and myself. And I'm going to accept all that love and support. So that's like a mindset shift that you might want to think about and consider as people offer you support. And then, kind of related to this, I wanted to bring this up because I find this is one of my clients' favorite parts of My Lighter Motherhood and the types of support I offer them in their postpartum prep. So I want to bring it here with you, is around boundaries. When you have a baby, like I said, it's one of the most vulnerable times in our lives. We've just given birth. We're like wearing adult diapers. Like we are breastfeeding or feeding around the clock. So we're doing skin to skin. So often we're like minimally clothed, maybe wearing a robe. Like we're in like a more vulnerable physical position as well as emotional position. And boundaries in this stage is something almost all of us have to experience and face and put into place. Healthy boundaries, Um, because other people around us, like our family, our friends, like they might not be aware of what you need in this time. Maybe what you need is like short visits. Maybe what you need is like no visits for a little bit, or specific types of support, specific types of visits. And so this is where I think my clients love this because I help teach you how to set these boundaries in a way that feels very loving, still allows people to like feel excited and like they're supporting you and contributing like to helping you, but also like puts your needs in the picture and up on the priority level. And this can be incredibly difficult and uncomfortable to do, especially if you're someone who, wants everyone to feel excited and included and gets the chance to meet your baby, and you don't want to like put a damper on that. But at the same time, you need to ask for that space to be able to feed your baby, be able to look after yourself, be able to rest, all of that stuff. And sometimes those conversations can happen in advance, which I can support you with if you're interested. I have so many different like boundaries and examples of things to set, which is especially helpful if you've never been in that situation before, you've never been a mum before. So you're like, what boundaries do I even consider setting? Like, at what stage, like right away. Like, anyway, I help you be proactive around that piece, but also like scripts and examples of like how to present things from a place of like love, And because I feel like sometimes boundaries can come from a place of like fear or having a wall up, and it like creates more distance. And we want this time to feel like loved and supported and bring families closer. So, yeah, so there's that as well. So you have your village, you have your people all working to support you. And then my favorite layer of the My Lighter Motherhood method is you. You can prepare yourself to experience better mental health postpartum. You can take a proactive approach when it comes to anxiety and depression. And if you are already experiencing these things in pregnancy, or if you've experienced anxiety or depression in the past, you can learn actionable, tangible tools and steps and practices that stop anxiety in its tracks, stops panic, brings you back to just like your calm, happy baseline, and just let you do that over and over again whenever you need. And the beautiful thing about doing this in pregnancy, if you are already experiencing these things, is you're going to just feel calmer, more present, more peaceful in the present moment, and like help you soak in your pregnancy more. It's going to shift your baseline to feel better before your baby gets here. So that's your normal just going into it. It's more likely to carry on. So I think that's really beautiful and powerful if you are experiencing depression or anxiety in your pregnancy. What is also really incredible about learning some proactive tools, and every mum can benefit from this, whether you're someone who is worried about anxiety or depression or not. Maybe you just value staying healthy in the newborn stage. Um, you can learn tools to help you when, those worries come in the middle of the night postpartum of like, oh my gosh, is like my baby breathing? And you find like you keep checking them, or um, maybe you're stressed if breastfeeding is taking weeks or feeding is taking like months even to figure themselves out. Or you're just someone who's worried about the exhaustion and you know that impacts your mood, you know that impacts your energy, and you know that can impact like the quality of your day. And you're someone who just really values like enjoying the baby stage. Like you're like, no, like I know it's going to be foggy. I know it's going to be um obviously different and harder in the way that I'm going to be more sleep deprived. And I just want to enjoy my time in it, I want to like accept that and welcome and embrace this unique chapter of our lives. I want to be in it with my baby. I want to be so responsive to them. I want to meet their needs. I want to be that one they can always count on, even if it's in the middle of the night. Like, I don't want my baby to feel like an inconvenience because it's 2 a.m. Like, no, I'm still going to feed you at 2 a.m., you know? Um, and that's where I think it's so important to really look after our emotional well-being and our energy levels through this whole time. Because when you do that, the night wake ups don't feel as painful. Yes, you're still tired, but you feel like more grateful in it. Like you feel more like I always like think of this picture because I remember feeling like this and feeling like in awe of feeling like this. It would be like, yeah, sometimes like the third wake up and it'd be like 2 a.m. and I knew I'd have more wake ups left. But I just remember holding my baby in my nursery and just like looking down at him and he'd like fallen asleep. And I'm remembering it was like 5 minutes later and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I should get to bed. I was like lingering in it. That's what I want for us. I want us to, like, sure, you can love sleep, but I want us to linger in just like the beautiful, quiet moments of life with a newborn because they do change like day to day, week to week, month to month so fast. And I see so many women suffering through it without maybe realizing it. Like they're like, oh, I just can't wait till they're sleeping through the night, or I I can't wait till we're past this. But I know that their true values are they would just like want to enjoy it, you know? They want to enjoy it. And they're waiting till a future ideal time where their babies are sleeping through the night until they can enjoy it. Whereas I want you to be able to enjoy it even when your baby's not sleeping through the night yet, you know? And I know that the inner tools to help you with your perspective, your mindset, your thoughts, the things you're thinking in the middle of the night when you're up in that nursery at 2 a.m. can be the difference maker between wishing yourself out of that moment, hating that moment, feeling physically uncomfortable, feeling exhausted in that moment, and softening into that moment. Like our perspective is so powerful. And the reason I get excited about this third layer of the My Lighter Motherhood method, which is how you feel internally, is because we actually have so much control over how we feel internally. We have, things we can do. We have ways to, we have a lot of control actually over our thoughts. We can use our awareness to recognize if a thought isn't helpful for us and shift it into one that better aligns with our values and how we actually want to think and feel in the moment. We have like tools and practices backed by science that can show us how to regulate our nervous systems in the moment so that your body can like feel more settled and just like take a deep breath and like relax, even in the uncomfortable, more stressful parts, you know? Um, I get so excited about this layer because we do have so much like ownership and control over our own selves and our own beings, and we can leverage that, you know? So, yeah, if you are new here, I I'm obsessed with like the mindset pieces. I think our minds are so powerful. I have rewired my own anxiety drastically over the years and shifted more into like a calm, peaceful, blissful baseline. And the days that I get anxious, the days that I feel more anxious than normal, or just feel heavier than normal, just my energy feels heavier than normal, I no longer feel like kind of a victim to how I'm feeling in the sense that I know what to do. I know how I can help myself shift out of it. And I think that, yeah, it's just such a more empowering place for me to be. And I love to share. I love to share these tools with you. Um, Let me just check my notes. Yeah. So it's really interesting because this is the part that people tend to forget or not realize that you can prepare yourself in this way. You know, oftentimes we prepare for postpartum by learning things from those around us. But unfortunately, there's a lot of information, a lot of perspectives, a lot of beliefs, limiting beliefs out there around motherhood. Like, just think of an example of like if you scroll through Instagram, you probably get of like a lot of relatable mom content or a lot of like mom humor content that is accidentally normalizing mom's suffering as being the normal, normalizing that it is this time where you just like lose yourself completely, normalizing this time where you're just exhausted and just need like that seventh coffee to like get through the day. There's a lot of limiting beliefs and thoughts out there around motherhood, and unfortunately, that also influences us and impacts our experience. And while I don't come from a place of like toxic positivity, of like only just think of the good things, I don't love that a lot of that stuff lets us like linger in and just stay in that disempowered state. It doesn't often show you the through line of like, okay, this is how we move through it. This is how we move up, rise up, elevate up out of those heavy feelings that we often hold in motherhood because there is exhaustion, there is stress. But how do we move through it and just up and out of it back into our normal, peaceful baselines, and for that to be your normal of being present at every stage and loving it. And that is what I am all about. That is exactly what I teach inside My Lighter Motherhood. I give you all of my mindset shifts, all of the beliefs that I've hold, that I've noticed, even from the science, that help, all of the tangible practices and things that you can do, think, the steps to move through the heavier days, my favorite practice to be present as a mom. I share all of that with you inside My Lighter Motherhood. And if you are someone who wants to be proactive and really look after your mental health and emotional well-being and have a healthier, more calm, more resourced postpartum, I would love to have you in there and welcome you in. And I will drop the link below. You can just click on it and get instant access today. And for those of you who are new here, I have dropped the price back to its original beta price when I was testing the program, which I never thought I would ever do. My plan, and I did. I raised it up over the last 5 years up to over $1,000 for the program because that is the value and the years and really decade and a half of experience I've poured into this. It's such a valuable program. But I was just like, you know what? I value more mums having access to this. I know it's a more expensive time. I know babies come with a lot of purchases, and I just wanted to invite more and more of you into it and just make it more easily accessible for everyone. It is an investment in yourself, in your emotional well-being. So it's not free. People just wouldn't even do it or value if it was free, but it's at an incredible price that I think is so fair and so accessible. And now is the best time to get into this. If you are fresh listening to this podcast, I'm not sure how long I'm going to keep the price here for. Um, so yeah, I would welcome you in and be so thrilled to have you in there and support you all the way through your pregnancy as you prepare. And then you'll feel supported, like I said, for the first year. postpartum. You can go in and watch a video on any day that you are feeling exhausted or not like yourself or just in one of those moods. And like maybe you're wanting to go out for a walk with your baby, but you're like, oh, I just don't have the energy, you know? There are three modules inside around energy postpartum, which I think is so exciting and such an underrated skill to be able to master your energy. Um, I was like postpartum doing all of these things, and I had the energy to be present and like play with my toddler, which was such a strong value of mine, to be present and pour into my newborn and to film like during many of the nap times, film content for My Lighter Motherhood. Like you'll see me inside of there, and I'm pregnant, like where you are now. And then when you're postpartum, you'll see me. I'm postpartum with where you are now. Some of it, my baby like woke up as I was filming, and so I would just like bring him, and he would like join me for the rest of the video and just chill. But I had enough energy to do all of that because of exactly what I teach you inside of it. So it's an incredible program. I would love to have you in there, and I would love if you join today while you're pregnant, while you have the space to prepare and while you're in prepping and nesting mode. All right, my loves, that is my episode for today. I hope these three layers have really supported you to see all the ways you do actually have more control over your mental health. I hope you feel excited and inspired that you can take a cool, proactive approach. And I think we're just in such a unique time in history as women where we can take more ownership, more responsibility of, have more power over how we feel, and so that we can live out our lives as our mums and feel the way we want to do as we do it. So that's it from me today. Thank you so, so much for being here, and I'll see you either inside My Lighter Motherhood soon or in the next episode. Okay, bye.